Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy, Bill, and Ange today. Guys, what we're talking about today is Los Angeles, the fires, the after effect. You know, like everybody's talking about Los Angeles 2.0 is coming, and some people are talking about the Marshall Plan. What does that mean? You know, they're still putting out fires when we're doing this video, and they're already talking about how they're going to rebuild it. And I don't understand how they could even come up with a game plan. Some of the interviews that I'm watching, they act like they've been working on the plan for years.
Oh, they have, believe me.
And I'm like, working on the plan for years. That's what it sounds like. And the fires are still going on. So I don't understand that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. You know, what is Los Angeles going to look like 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now? You know, and now they're going to put everything, into hyperspeed because the Olympics are going there and something else that big is happening there. But the problem also is, like politicians, a lot of them say, hey, you know what, we're going to streamline everything. The permitting, it's going to be streamlined. All this is going to be nice and easy for everybody. But at the end of the day, once it starts getting out of the news, everything slows down. So
It's going to slow down like on day one because the minute they try to do one thing, just one thing, there's going to be 100 lawsuits. And that's just going to put throw the wrench into the cog and just slow it all down again. Because it's going to take them at least. I have a friend who's a realtor there. He's actually a pretty big realtor in LA. His wife is one of the housewives. And we were talking, today's Sunday, so we were talking on Friday. And he was saying that they're figuring 6 to 9 months to clean the place up. And he's like, that's probably like one block. He's like, you're talking like, easily a year and a half, 2 years, just because you got to get everything out of there, the whole entire place, in order to start bringing stuff in.
Well, plus the soil, in a lot of areas, not for nothing, Bill, you can answer this, you're a fireman. A lot of soil is toxic now.
Yeah.
Chemicals burnt, gas.
Yeah, they talked about that. I saw at one of the news conferences where they were talking about the batteries and the battery acid and things like that for all the vehicles and things that burned up. Not so much like antifreeze and stuff like that, but more, because that kind of stuff would probably burn up unless it leaked out. But more battery acid seemed to be their biggest concern. So I know they had the EPA already there, and the extraction teams and containment units and all that stuff kind of rolling around in the areas that they could. Because I think what they say 60 some odd % of it was contained roughly, for the one Palisades fire.
Yeah, I wrote down some notes of what people was, thinking. And like I said, what's blowing my mind about this whole thing that I'm bringing it up, like they're talking about plans like in detail, some people, like, okay, how did you think of this within weeks? I think maybe
Because they saw what
it's a
happened in
conspiracy
Hawaii.
theory.
Yeah, they saw what happened in Hawaii when they kicked when they burnt all those places burned down. And that's like some of the most beautiful, vistas in Hawaii. And the idea was, hey, we can put hotels up. And, because you got to remember, when you put a hotel up, or I can use a food store as an example, like a Ralph's. So anyone that's in California, Ralph's are like Publix, which is like a Wallbaum's or an A&P. When you pay rent on that place, you don't pay rent on like the property. So if you had like a little haircutting business, you pay $1,200 a month or whatever it is to rent out your building. In a food store, you pay a percentage of what the store takes in.
Yeah,
so
they're called a net lease.
Yeah, and same thing in a Home Depot, same thing in a Lowe's, and It's the same thing in the hotel business. So they would love to have like they don't want any of those houses on the PCH in Malibu. Because as you drive down Malibu, all of a sudden you can look out over the ocean and it's gorgeous. Then all of a sudden for like 3 miles you couldn't see anything.
Because
you
it's all the houses that are 5 feet apart from each other.
Yeah, and 5 feet, that would be nice if it was 5 feet. It was more like 1.5 feet, some of them. And some of them are junky, like very old, like from the 40s, and you really can't fix them up that great. Some of them are brand new and they're monstrous. But, now you can get rid of all of that, and now you have those views. And then if you go just the other side of PCH, which is now climbing up the hill, and you put in your nice hotels and stuff, you're going to get top dollar for renting rooms. The hotels are going to make a fortune.
Yeah. All right. So, let's talk about that.
I think it was planned, honestly.
Yeah, let's talk about that. In the meantime, do me a favor. If you guys like this kind of content, consider subscribing, share, give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out the channel. It really motivates us. And we put a lot of work into these videos. But, Bill, I have a real estate question. And you're going to say, well, I'm not a California realtor. But you could apply this to any state, especially here in Florida. Okay, when there's a natural disaster, there's federal laws kicked in. Like you can't price gouge. You can't increase the price of fuel, food. You can't do any of that stuff. You guys agree?
Yeah, during the emergency situation, price gouging. I mean, price gouging is not.
All you can do is you can go 10% higher than what you would normally get. That's the federal law. 10% it allows you to go.
So here's what's happening in Palisades and everything. These people's houses are burnt. Like it would be years before they get in, some of them. Okay. But they want to stay in the area. They have jobs, they have schools if they're not destroyed, they have family. So, and a lot of them do have some money and they want to buy houses. Now, here's the question. The people are saying, you know what? I wasn't planning on selling my house, but now I can sell my house for 2 to 3 times more than I was able to sell it before the fires. Because now there's a demand for the house in this area because every other house is destroyed. My house is good. So I was thinking about selling it next year, but I'm not going to sell it. So my house is worth $1 million. Well, now I want $2 million.
They're not getting that there.
Whatever. I'm just giving out an example. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really not, since if their home was for sale during the fire, okay, then I could see them breaking federal law by, increasing it the next day because there's a big demand for the house. But what if the house wasn't for sale and now they decided to put it up for sale? Are they breaking the law? What do you think, Bill?
Well, are they breaking the law in the first place? So, excuse me. First off, did the house survive? Is what you're saying, that because there's demand, because it's actually a survivable house?
Yeah, their house survived, it's spotless. Yeah. But now the people that lost their houses want to buy houses instead of waiting. So
supply and demand. So what's the difference between what happened during COVID when you got into bidding wars? If you're willing to pay overpriced for something, you know what I mean? Nobody's forcing you to do it. It happened during COVID. The bidding wars, right? That was all over the place.
So that's not, but I mean, we weren't declared a federal disaster area.
But you can't price gouge on a private, like I'll call it private property, a personal property. You can ask whatever you want. I actually was just talking about this with my buddy, and he said that if you had a house that was, say, with the house when everything was good, he said, say it was worth $1 million just to work in even numbers. And he was like, now that there's no house there, he goes, the land is only worth like, say, $400,000 to $700,000 because you were buying a structure. And he's like, people are going to sell their property. He goes, they're not going to get what they wanted with a house on it. But some of these people are just like, you know what? I bought the house for $700,000 20 years ago. A builder or somebody else will offer me $1.2 million for it. I'm taking it.
Right.
And
I'm not saying we're not lawyers, we're not accountants, we're not, any of that. It's just our opinions. But again, I could be totally wrong. If somebody's watching this video and they know the right answer to this, that's not considered price gouging because I could ask for anything I want for the house.
Yeah, just nobody has to pay you. That's it.
Right?
And it's not a necessity.
It's not like the bank is paying for the property. It's, just like what happened during COVID. When people were paying over for a house, over the value of the house that the bank appraised it at, the bank wasn't. That's how come we're not getting back into where we were. One of the reasons why we're not getting back into where we were during the great financial crisis, because we weren't extending these 110%, 115% loans on the house. If you wanted to spend the money, that's up to you, to win the bid. That was completely up to you.
All right. So here's some people that, I'm watching some YouTube videos and I'm watching some newscasts and everything. So they're saying on the Marshall Plan, Los Angeles 2.0, they want to make everything eco-friendly, like in an urban design. So think about the Pacific Highway, all those Malibu houses right on the beach, 2 feet apart from each other. Ange, do you think that they're going to allow people to just build them like that again?
Build like the way the houses were?
Yeah.
No, never. Put it this way, I can't guarantee anything except death, but there's no. I'll bet money that there's no way in hell you ever see another house built on the west side of the Pacific Coast Highway, meaning a beachfront house ever again.
But how do you stop somebody that owns that house,
The
that
government,
property privately?
the state of California will come in and buy it at fair market value, and
They're
they'll
going
lock it
broke,
off.
California.
They got money? They're not broke. Believe me, they're not. They're broke as in like they spend money on the wrong things. Because here's the thing you got to remember: California is enormous. It's so big, and we're looking at like it's like 30,000 acres or something like that, which is a lot of land, but it's only a small part. Like you go across this, you go here, you got the 405 coming up and down, right? So just say, well, we're doing reverse in the mirror here, so it's bad math. But on one side of the 405, there's nothing going on. That's Bel Air, Beverly Hills. It's perfect. It's all good. Not a damn thing happened to it. The other side of the 405, which is like going towards the Pacific, that's the Palisades. That's all burnt down, and Malibu's burnt down. So when you're on the one side of the block, it's perfect. I mean, now if you get out to Glendale, where you go to the Eaton fire, which was Altadena, I mean, that's a drive. That's like a 45-minute drive.
But people are saying this is what they want, okay? Or this is at least what the newscasts people are saying. They want it eco-friendly, urban design to fit more people, fire-resistant buildings, which I don't know how they're going to do, enhanced green spaces, solar-powered infrastructure.
Which, that alone will never work, solar power.
Yeah. Are we really even at that point yet?
Yeah.
I mean, infrastructure.
But Bill, this is what they're talking about.
No, I know, but you got to remember, you're talking about people who live in fantasy land. Like, there's a reason why they call it La La Land out there, because they're all like they live in a bubble, in a fantasy. And the funny part is, you're talking about people who either don't have money, don't own the property, or don't have the power, meaning like the connections to say we're going to do A, B, C, or D. You know, it's like everyone's throwing their BS in the ring, and nobody has a fight in that ring. These are people who are all from the outsides. What the state would like to do is the state would love to take, because this happens all over the valley, the San Fernando Valley. They'll buy on a main block, there might be, say, one or two houses that are still there. And they'll knock down that one house, and they'll put up a townhouse building straight up for like 3 or 4 floors that you could bring in, let's call it 4 families, right? Instead of just having the one that you had originally. And that brings in more money. You know, it's more taxable dollars.
Do you think that
but there's no water. There's no water. There's no electricity. There's no parking. It's fantasy land.
So let me ask you 2 questions then, both of you guys, okay? One is, if the federal government, you think the federal government should just give the state of California a lump sum money and say, go ahead and fix it? Or you think they're going to blow it on wasteful stuff?
The federal government shouldn't give the state of California a penny.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. What's the federal government? Is it, you're talking like FEMA money?
yeah, like rebuilding, like Biden said that for the first 6 months, the federal government will cover all expenses fighting the fire.
Yeah, but they got to be paid back.
Right,
Oh,
but
they
that's
do?
normal. So first off, when you have a natural disaster like that, just like when we have a hurricane, and it's declared a state of emergency in a disaster area, you know, the municipalities get reimbursed, or at least partially reimbursed, for the overtime and extra expense from the storm, and that's part of the FEMA money for the municipalities, for law enforcement, healthcare, things like that. Non-private.
I mean, what do you guys think? You know, and I'll go down the list of everything that their wish list, and you guys could say it's fantasy or not. But I did some Googling. But what do you guys think that Palisades and Malibu and that whole area is going to look like 5 years from now? You're saying that the Pacific Highway,
it's going to look exactly like it looks now, but just with a little less debris on it.
So you don't think the Pacific Highway, those Malibu houses, are going to?
No, you know what you're going to see? It's going to look like, you ever go down to some of the areas here, like in Florida, where the old docks are, and they're like the poles are still sticking up, but there's no dock there because it was 50 years. That's what it's going to look like there. You're going to see the pylons sticking out of the sand with nothing on top of it. And they're just going to be sticking out for years because it's never going to happen. It's going to be lawsuit after lawsuit. People are going to, like right now, they're trying to say that the fire was created.
You mentioned lawsuit twice. What lawsuits? Because I think that's
because
a good talking point.
they're saying that SoCal Edison is what started the fire. They're saying that their power, they're saying that their power line or transformer, whatever, up in the mountain is what sparked the fire. And now, being that all the debris was underneath the tower, that caught fire and it took off like wildfire. And so you got SoCal Edison saying, if just for argument's sake, let's say that their line fell, but they were like, but if you guys cleaned what you're supposed to clean, nothing would have burned because it just would have hit the floor and lied in dirt. But since you didn't do it, don't try to blame us because you guys didn't clean, the rice paper underneath it. So that's going to go on for the next. Yeah, look at Hawaii. Well, how long has anything happened in that area of Hawaii that burned? Nothing has happened.
Yeah, very little.
And how many years is that already? 3, 4?
Yeah, and that was a pretty.
So that'll be interesting to see how that all pans out with that, and once they do the investigations and like
I'm not
what
even
really
saying
happened.
SoCal Edison had anything. It could have been an arsonist. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody.
It could be a random glass bottle sitting out there. Who knows?
Exactly. It could be anything. No one knows at this point. But the crazier thing is that I'm not saying I have a hard time believing that an amber can blow 20 miles. And I mean, maybe it can. I don't know. But it's kind of wacky to see that how many fires popped up in all these different places and almost all at the same time. Now, there's no reason on earth to burn down Altadena. Because Altadena is just like a normal neighborhood. You know what I mean? There's nothing spectacular about it.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that one of the fires started by arson, accident, natural, whatever, lightning strike? I don't know. Yeah. And do you think this is a conspiracy theory? I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just throwing it out there.
I get it.
Talking point. Do you think some people took that as a sign? Hey, you know what? We could put this Marshall Plan in motion.
Yeah.
Because that's what some people are saying. It's just
right.
Put it this way. I mean, now here's one for Bill, right? And this is kind of a fire department, not a question. This is like a response I want from you. I don't know if you saw her on the news. They had the one fire captain, the woman, and she was the head of the diversity and equity. Did you see that? Where she's the one that commented on, like, if I have to carry the guy out of the fire, that's because he got himself in the wrong place. Like,
right.
Like,
it's all over the news. Yeah.
So, like, I mean, her business card didn't say, like, LAFD, Captain blah blah Battalion 27 kind of thing. No, it was Captain so and so, head of diversity and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like a DEI kind of stuff. And I mean, like, what I'm getting at is like this is the mentality. Like if you're in the fire department, like you should know, especially if you're in an area that doesn't have certain things like water. You would know that if this was your area of concern, that your reservoir that you would have to drain from is filled. Whether you check it once a week, once a month, you know what I'm saying? Like you'd have these things in your head. Like, hey, are we good? Like, I know we need more personnel. I mean, have you seen the aerial shot of all the fire engines that are on the mechanic parking lot? There's like hundreds of trucks sitting there that are all broken that can't be fixed because they took the 17 point something million and gave it to wherever they gave it to, so they can't afford any mechanics.
Right. Yeah. Who knows what's true and what's not?
Sitting there. I mean, there's actual pictures. You just look it up. There's aerial shots. They were on the news.
Yeah. So kind of go back to like what we were saying with that, like the fires all started at one time. It's hard to believe that many fires and that spread. Now, Angie could talk to the spread of the distance between where they started. Yeah. Because I don't know that, but you mentioned like 20-ish miles roughly.
Maybe more to get from Palisades to Altadena. That's a drive. A long drive.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about 20 miles for an ember to go from my house to your house, Jimmy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Give or take. That seems like a stretch for a single ember to stay lit and have enough fuel, like Class A fuel, to travel 20 miles. But I mean, I guess we were talking, 80 mile an hour winds too. So there was something to be said. I saw something in the news that was talking about with the wind and stuff, the way it comes off the mountain, it heats up, and that could have caused some issues with it super dry. And that actually makes more sense than an ember flying that far. But
and it does, because I felt those winds, and those winds are hot. And like when I lived I was at Hidden Hills, Calabasas area, we've had some fires up there that were from the Santa Anas, flying through and then, sparking something up, heating it up. And it's happened. But here's the other weird thing. Like, I know when we've had that happen, those fires, the fire department was on it within, like, I don't want to say seconds, but I'll say minutes.
With you saying that, hey everybody, so this is part 1 of Los Angeles 2.0. So basically we're going to be breaking up this segment into 2 videos. So this is the end of this one, and make sure you watch the next one that's going to be coming up in a couple of days, or depending on when you're watching it, it might be up now. So this is part 1, and we're going to put part 2. So we'll talk to you on the next one. Thank you, and remember, consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel.
All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.